All right, so if you're watching this on the replay, well, you're about ready to experience a total troll moment, but otherwise, this is the 15-second lead into the usual Thursday night get together, if you will. So with that, I'd like to say welcome, everybody. 7 p.m. on a Thursday night, and I guess old habits die hard, used to say in Car Guy and SixFan show here, but and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I did just want to real quick remind everybody while we're at it here, we are still doing the Kilmat giveaway. So every dollar in super chat that's given gets you one entry into not just one, but two of these 80 mil, 36 square foot kits by Kilmat, sound deadening kits, and an installation roller. And so with that, we just want to take a moment and talk about who's all in the chat. And Eric's already trolling me about my car not starting. So Half-Fast Garage, Antonio, Claudio, Michael, Will's Wheels, Half-Fast Garage, already said that, and Eford Garage, Will's Wheels, and some others. So yes, welcome everybody. It's a little different format you might notice here tonight. And the reason for that is, earlier this morning, it's April Fool's Day, so Jason and I were acting like this was over. But hopefully a lot of you caught his video this afternoon, and hopefully you guys got a chuckle out of that. But it is the Car Guy and SixFan show. Nothing has changed. I'm your host, Grant Tommy, here on Straight SixFan. That means over this direction
is Jason. I'm still here. I did get a few of you guys because obviously in the comments, which I have purposely not responded to, you guys, some of you were going a little bit crazy there, and some of you just knew right off the bat what was a gas. But yes, that's the Car Guy and SixFan show. Nothing has changed. It was a little bit of a collaborative April Fool's joke between Grant and myself. And to those who I did get, sorry. Not sorry. Okay. But just keep in mind that I have access to my analytics, and on a 3-minute, 40-second video, most of you guys only watched the first 2 minutes of it. So shame on you if you didn't watch the whole video. Anyways.
Yeah. We don't know if you made you so upset that you just, had to drop your phone and walk away for a bit and cool off, or what the deal was. But, point is, we know that means you guys care about us, and we appreciate that. We like what we've built here. And before we get started with tonight's show, it is a legacy episode. No interview tonight. We may have hurt attendance by our little shenanigans. I see there's only about 10 of you watching, probably thinking that the ride was over. But so maybe I'm digging my own grave here. But before we get into tonight's main topic, I did just want to push out to the chat a link for a fellow YouTuber. This was when we talk about the origins of this show, Car Guy and SixFan show, and my old Know Your Neighbor segment. This is how Jason, one of the ways Jason and I got to know each other. Well, one of my other guests in that segment was Po Boy's Diesel, and Po Boy is going through. He has cancer, and so there's a GoFundMe page for him to help him, help with medical costs and things of that nature. So I've put that link in the chat. Feel free to go check that out. If you've been part of my channel for a long time and you watch the Know Your Neighbors segment, and if you've ever interacted with Po Boy, he's the type of guy who's just more than willing to help. So I figure it's only right that we sort of pay him back a little bit. So super generous guy. Hate to see him struggling through that, but sorry, that's a little bit of a downer, I guess.
Well, I mean, and if we really want to put a little bit of a twist on this, and we always talk about community, not competition. If you don't feel the need to give financially, that's fine. I know that he would certainly appreciate going into some of his videos, watching his videos, commenting, letting him know that you're there. And he's the type of guy that would certainly reach out to you and help you out any way he could, should something, something be going on in your life too. So having said all of that, guys, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up on your way in the door if you haven't already, and share it out. there's a share button down there. You can share it out to Twitter, Facebook, all your social media, and try and get the seats filled in the chat box there. We want to make sure everybody knows that we're on the air tonight. And tonight's topic, we are talking about nicknames of cars through the generations. And you guys pretty much all know what we're talking about. And this is one of these episodes where we are actually going to be winging it tonight a little bit because somewhat unprepared. This was an episode that was supposed to happen on my channel a few weeks back, but we did the what did we do? Oh, we did the solo B-roll. Yeah. We did the announcing on that, the winner. So, Grant, why don't you kind of introduce a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, and then we'll try and make it up as we go.
Sure. Well, in the background, Jason, and this is really behind the scenes for you guys. When Jason says we're winging it tonight, well, that's actually every week. But so I know you made a thumbnail for that a while back. So, and I know you have a lot of you can bail us out on that. So if you want to find that on your computer, that'll help. But tonight's episode, it should be fairly interactive in this case, right? So we'll take some from you guys as well as we start throwing them out there. We just think it's kind of, this is what legacy episodes are supposed to be about. It's just kind of pick a topic and roll with it that's car related. So we decided we'll kind of try to work through the decades, and we'll start with the 1920s. So as Jason and I were spitballing, the only one that really came to mind was, of course, the Model T, the Tin Lizzie, was the kind of the first one that came to mind. I think you could also probably go as far as to say, and maybe this is more 30s, but I grew up quite a bit of my youth always hearing like my grandparents say, "Oh, that's a doozy," and then come to find out, watching Jay Leno's Garage years later, that actually came from the Duesenberg. That's a spinoff from the Duesenberg. That's where that saying came from, and I never knew that until probably in my 20s or something. So anyway, those are kind of the two that are coming to mind. Jason, I don't know if you found your thumbnail yet, but anything you might add to the 20s?
I did find my thumbnail. If you see down at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to share that. I think I've got it up there. Yeah, so this is something that we tried to put something together, and we got interrupted. We interrupted ourselves with the solo B-roll, but some of the things as we roll through, yeah, and this was kind of in preparation for tonight's show, kind of crossing me off and doing this. But anyway, you can see some of the names there of nicknames like Pony Car, TriFives, Square Body, some of that stuff. And that's basically what we're talking about tonight. So if you guys have any nicknames that we don't talk about, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll try and do our best to talk about them and see if we know exactly what it is that you're talking about.
And real quick, Jason, I'm getting feedback in the chat that apparently my audio is a little weak. So trying to check some things on my end. You guys tell me if it's getting any better, because I can move that up, I guess. So just tell me if this is any better, and Jason, you want to take us through how about the 30s now? Any car nicknames you can think of from the 30s?
Well, nope. I can't off the top of my head. Like I said, we are winging this tonight, guys, and it's this will probably be the first episode of the Car Guy and SixFan show that is totally 100% off the cuff, and we don't know what the hell we're talking about. So anybody, guys, in the chat know of any cars from the 30s that had nicknames? Because I just can't think of it off the top of my head.
So Greasy Boy Customs says he's got a good one. Deuce Coupe for the 32.
Oh,
so that's
yeah, and the Chevy had the Vicky. I think they called it a Vicky. It was like 32 or 3 Chevy, and kind of a. I don't know if they were 4 doors, 2 doors with the rumble seat and all that stuff. Again, maybe somebody can help me in the chat decipher what I'm trying to say. Half-Assed Garage says he's drawing a blank. Is that the time when the term jalopy was introduced, says Riggs Garage? Quite possibly. King Eric says lead sled. I think that came along probably later in the late 40s, early 50s. Yeah, I think we're all kind of in that same boat with the 30s. Not sure. Real World Garage says Ford had a Vicky for the Crown Victoria. Yeah, I think you're right. The Crown Vic or the Crown Victoria always had kind of that nickname Vicky, but I think there was a Vicky back in the 30s that was a GM product, possibly.
So I hear I took my audio way too far to the other end, and now it's clipping from some of you guys are saying that. So I can, again, I can dial it back even more. Hopefully this is better. But yeah, we also had High Boy. That's another good one from that era. And I think Lead Sled's a really interesting one for me because I think the topic is meant for 40s cars, but I don't think the term came around until probably the 60s when the custom car culture kind of came about, you know, taking the 49 Merc and stretching it. Like people weren't doing that, you know, like if any new car, like back, especially back then, you weren't in 1951, people didn't already have the chopped 49 Mercs, you know. So we'll move on to the 40s then, I think, Jason. And again, this one's one like, you know, we talked about it off camera. You know, there's pre-war and post-war. So as we learned with our AMC history with Hudson and Studebaker, or Hudson and I'm drawing a blank, Nash.
Nash, yeah.
That just what nobody produced a brand new car for, you know, 4, 5, 6 years almost. So probably not going to find a lot of nicknames out of the 40s. But sorry, were you gonna?
Yeah, I was just going to say that mechanics in the chat has brought up the term Woody, and I think that if you kind of go back into the 40s, is where the Woody first kind of came into play, where they were making, you know, the doors and some of the roofs out of wood, and you had that kind of hybrid of metal fenders and wooden bodies, bringing up the term Woody. So yeah, there's one that I think that we may have missed. Sinister Camaro says Deuce Coupe, which was kind of an early 20s deal. Actually, no, sorry. That was a 32, so that come out of the 30s as well. But the Woody wagons kind of did prevail more in the late, you know, in the 40s and late or early 50s. So Woody is a big term there, a big nickname maybe.
And speaking of Sinister Camaro, by the way, he's new to the chat tonight. We kind of struck up a good conversation in a Facebook group this week, so I invited him to the show. So welcome. Wanted to say thanks for carving some time out of your Thursday to come join us here on the Car Guy and SixFan show. And then who was it? Half Fast Garage, you know, was just mentioning that. Well, I thought, you know, kind of when we were talking about the lead sled things, like, hey, well, weren't they using lead from the factory from the get-go? And yes, yeah, that was their body filler. That was what they were using for the, you know, what we would use Bondo for today for those small imperfections. They were using lead, but yeah, I don't think that nickname really was associated with the factory stuff as much as the custom car culture later on.
Yeah, and I think that the lead sled term really effectively came about simply because these cars were big, they were huge cars, they were heavy. So lead, obviously being a heavy metal, I think that's might be more where that term came from. So, and when people started taking them and lowering them and slamming them to the ground, I think that's kind of where they come up with that term. So.
I would guess too, if you're chopping a top and you're trying to do the body work, like you're filling it with lead back then too. So like the amount of lead you probably had to post fact put on top of what was already there. Again, it's you know, it's a nickname. That's what tonight's about. We're just trying to dissect these nicknames. We really don't know what we're talking about, but we'll move to the 50s.
But by golly, we're going to make it sound good.
We'll move to the 50s, and we kind of have two, and they're kind of the same thing in one sense. One's a little more brand universal. The other one's definitely down one avenue. So I'll start with shoebox because you have shoebox Chevys and shoebox Fords. You know, that 50s era, basically 50 to 57. You know, Ford's, I think, got the shoebox is more of the 50 and 51 era, and then the shoebox Chevy's more of the, well, that leads us into the next nickname, Jason, which did adorn your
Yes, it did. So that leads us into the 55, 6, and 7 Chevys, which appropriately were called TriFives. And they basically all had the same greenhouse, and every single year, the grill, headlights, taillights all changed, as well as some body molding. So it was a very distinct way to determine, which cars were which, but all built basically with that same from the windshield to the back window, essentially the same vehicle with slight modifications, so that you knew you could tell the 55 with the big wide oval grille compared to a 57 with its trim and its steeper, straighter back fenders and all the different styles in between the 210s and the Bel Airs and all that stuff. It wasn't until the late 50s when GM decided they were going to take those Bel Air style cars and turn them into boats, essentially after that. So 58, 9, 60, they started turning them into these wider, lower to the ground, great big fenders, big fins. And that's kind of when you started getting into, the big fins, and Cadillacs and Chryslers all had just everything was huge on those cars back then.
What's funny is that isn't it funny that like what ruined the 50s era cars was dual headlights, but then when you moved into the 60s, like the best looking muscle cars have the dual headlights, right? Like, so it's like this full circle thing. It's like what didn't work a decade ago is now all the rage, kind of a thing. But there were some in the chat. There were some good recommendations to not just focus on cars, but motors. And I think there's a lot, especially this era. Will's Wheels dropped, of course. The Buick Nailhead was one, and I don't know if somebody can explain that to me better. I know looking at the motor, the valve covers almost just stick straight up, and I don't know if that's where they get that look from. Is that it looks like stamped nails down or what? I really don't know. But in the 50s, we've got a lot of motor options. I know what was the Corvette's first, the 53 Corvette. 53 or is it 53 the first year?
50, yeah, 53.
Yeah, so it only came with an inline six, and it had like the blue streak or something, the blue something. And then of course the Hudson Hornet had a special nickname for their inline six. But as we move out of the Ford flathead ruled the world up until this point, and then Chevy's basically introduces the small block Chevy with the 265 with the TriFives. And then I think any other motors you can think of, Jason, from the 50s?
Yeah, well, of course, the 50s was when the Hemi kind of first started making its appearance. They weren't powerhouses by no means, but it was Hemis were classified. Of course, they didn't start calling them Hemis back then. We call them Hemis now. But you move into some of the into the 60s and stuff like that, you start getting the slant six, which I'm not sure they called them slant sixes back then, but we call them the leaning tower of power and different stuff like that these days. Yeah, and we are being corrected by Morsky Repair in there about calling them motors and versus engine.
Yeah. I knew that was going to get...
But you know what, guys? Eat it. This is our show, and we're going to call them motors if we want to. So don't get butthurt over a motor versus a engine. The Olds Rocket, there was a few. The Fire Dome. I'm reading in here in the chat.
So like the 409 didn't necessarily have a special nickname, but the double hump heads that everybody talks about from that era. I'm sure there's, I'm blanking. I'm sure the chat can bail us out here, but 60s, as we start to get in the muscle car era, big blocks have nicknames, I'm sure the different motors, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
yeah, it's, and this is something that we can talk about too. We are going to have Morsky Repair as our season finale guest at the end of the season. And I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to engines. But a couple of things that we're talking about is Y blocks and wedges and camelbacks and W blocks and all this different stuff. And that might be a topic of discussion simply for another show to say, okay, well, what makes a Y block, or what makes an FE engine, an FE engine, and different stuff like that, and wedges and it's different. You know, that's a great topic of conversation for somebody who knows about that stuff. And I think Morsky's probably the guy who can help us out with that.
Well, and he corrects you, Jason, says he's a wealth of useless knowledge, is what.
Well,
I mean,
either way,
said it,
we'll dive into that too. So,
but yeah, okay. And King Eric the Graceful, the tri-power, so your 3 deuces on a before the 6-pack, and this is where there's kind of a gray area too, because like so Dodge actually branded it the 6-pack. But some of these, were born more out of like the aftermarket. We're trying to focus on what did the car culture come up with for nicknames and things like that. For instance, like I know and as we kind of get out of the 60s, of course, Eford Garage says 3/4 race cam. And I want to say sorry, I'm kind of ADD tonight, but Greasy Boy Customs, I think somebody had a good spin-off talking about 3/4 race cams. It's like, I don't even know what the heck that means. He was doing it in a southern drawl kind of thing. But so moving to the 70s, the pinnacle of the muscle car era, like the Muncie 4-speed, they called the Rock Crusher. Like that's kind of what we're after, is those nicknames of Rock Crusher. What the heck does that even mean? I mean, I always think of just like slamming gears and you're breaking things, but I don't know. I don't know if that's where it came from.
well, yeah, and that's the whole idea. As we do move into the 70s, I mean, you've got I guess we're coming out of the 60s and into the 70s. We can kind of pool into that term of pony cars, which essentially started with the Mustang being a horse branded type car, and everybody trying to chase the Mustang to the top of the power rankings and performance and all that stuff, and bringing on the Camaro and the Challengers and Cudas and all this different stuff that and then there was the Mustang too. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so pony car kind of rides those coattails of the Mustang, but lumps in a huge stockpile of cars, and even AMC got into that with the AMX, and there's a few others in there as well. But I think pony car is probably one of the more popular ones. When somebody says that, they know exactly what people are talking about, no matter what era you're from. We can also kind of lead into trucks. That back in the day, there was we move into the 70s, 73 through 87 Chevy trucks were called the square bodies.
Well, or even before you get there, because as soon as you said trucks, then that got me thinking, we have the bump side Fords, the dent side Fords,
yeah,
swept line Dodge, and so all of those as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Every style came with its own little nickname. Of course, back in the day, I'm not sure they called them dent side Fords or bump side Fords, but as we kind of grew away from them, that's how we refer to them. Get into the early 80s, and they were the brick nose and then bull nose, or maybe it was vice versa. I don't know.
Bull nose first is 80 to 86, 87 to 91's brick nose, and then arrow nose.
Yeah, but they're Fords. Nobody really cares. So let's move on to another topic.
No, but wait, yeah. So we'll go into, of course, the era that Jason and I like to coin as the odd body era, and that nickname, of course, didn't show up until we came around. But the OPEC era, 73 to, the end of it, 81. I kind of go anywhere between 79 and 81, but somebody in the chat had mentioned, this is about the time when the term land yacht starts to show up when we talk about this era of car. They just got way too big for their own good, couldn't get out of their own way, and they make for cheap builds.
Land yacht. Yeah, and in today's today's talking about cars, I think they do refer to them as smog era cars. You know, when emissions and all that stuff kind of started coming into play, and depowering engines for better emissions standards and stuff like that. So, you know, my car is a classic example. It was smogged up. It had a pump and a charcoal canister and catalytic converter when it was new. Of course, all that stuff is long gone now. But today, people are more concerned about miles per gallon than performance, but they're also getting both when it comes to things like, you know, the Hemi Challengers and Hellcats, stuff like that.
Well, we have some other good ones that came in from the muscle car era, like goats and elephants. So there's a good one. You know, big. I knew we're missing some sort of a big block term, so elephant is a good one there as well. So, Jason, I know we kind of tried to work our way up through the different decades in the 80s. You know, we already talked about the Ford trucks and things like that. But then, of course, Fox Body is another big one. But, you know, I think we'll probably try to wrap this part of the discussion up, probably merge some of the remaining decades together here. But that way we can get to the usual topics, you know, end with some kind of YouTube growth hack kind of stuff. So why don't you, if we went almost 90s through present day, what are some of the nicknames that come to mind for you?
I think the biggest one, when it refers to trucks, and it really refers to both Ford and Chevy in a lot of cases, is OBS, or old body style. And, you know, after the square body Chevys and after the brick nose Fords, was that the later one? Yeah. So after that, they come out and they started, you know, trying to do aerodynamics and making them look a little more stylish. And nowadays we call them OBS, and that is basically your 90s style GM pickups. And of course, Dodge always had that, what they classified as the first gen. That was, you know, the Dodge trucks they were making right from the early 70s right up till 1993 when they come out with that new body style, and they got, you know, onward from there. So first gen Dodges, everybody knows what those are because they made them for so long. And OBS Fords and Chevys. Basically, the OBS Fords were up to, I think, 96. And then they come out with that new body style in 97. And then the GMs come out with the Silverado in 99. After that, it's all a gray area for me because I don't pay too much attention to the new stuff. As far as cars go, you had your bubble tops, which were the GM Caprices. You also had your Aero Ford Panther platforms, the Crown Victorias. Today we still call them Panthers, but nevertheless, there was different styles for those cars. Anything else you can think of that come out of the 90s, Grant, that
Well, I mean, your Panther platform, but that's again, like, so that's kind of cheating, like, because that's fact. Panther platform and Fox Body are factory nicknames, but that does kind of remind me of you know, the new 5-liter Ford, the Coyote, is what everybody calls that now. I guess that was actually a nickname for 302s back in the day. Like, I had somebody was referring to my Fairmont's 302 as a Coyote. He's like, yeah, no, it's nowhere close with its 140 horsepower. And they said, oh, well, no, I mean, I used to be a mechanic back in the 80s, and that's what we called them all the time. So Coyote is actually an old nickname, I guess.
Well, probably because they were always trying to chase the Roadrunner, or always trying to catch the Roadrunner, maybe?
I don't know. I probably would have rather used the 427 than the 302, but
nevertheless, well, that's it. I think we muddled our way through that long enough. I think it's time to move on to.
If we haven't lost everybody, we don't know if that was entertaining or not. You guys let us know. You know, we try to keep it fresh and keep it different, and we intentionally leave out weeks for interviews for 2 reasons. One, it gives Jason and I a little flexibility in the schedule, and not to feel like, you know, we haven't had a guest bail on us yet. And so if we literally tried filling every week, we feel like the opportunity there is just too great to lose a guest. It also helps us kind of just reset it and be a little more informal. So hopefully this was entertaining to you guys. But yeah, Jason, as we talk about YouTube growth strategy and things that we've, lessons we've learned as we go through this, and again, we're not know-it-alls. We're just talking about through experience, what we've learned over our time and things. What's been on your mind recently, most recently, when it comes to YouTube growth strategy?
I think the big thing for me is trying to find my spot in the YouTube algorithm. There's a lot of guys out there doing a lot of trendy things, which is absolutely great, and it's working for them. Yeah, Tom Morsky is a perfect example of doing the revivals, and I love watching revivals. I think it's great, and I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there that do, and that is a hot topic for YouTube creators right now to jump on that and do that and see exactly what it takes to get a car that's been sitting for 20, 30, 40 or more years and get them running. And that is a huge growth. My channel is not related around that. I didn't grow my channel around revivals. Will I do some at some point in time? Maybe. But finding my place in that YouTube algorithm has been a challenge because not everybody just wants to sit there and watch a guy work on his car or blow things up or whatever it happens to be. And I've got to find my way. Yes, my channel is growing, but I still don't feel like I'm grabbing the views that I should be grabbing off of YouTube. So I think trying to find that niche for me is where my struggle is.
Yeah, so like what do they call that? They say niche down, like find a micro niche, and so that's what offbeat hot rodding is for me, is to be very intentional about, like, yeah, no, you're not gonna find a '69 Camaro build on this channel. That's not what I want it to be about. But one of the things you said there, Jason, is that you're trying to find your spot. I've long said, I still haven't come. Maybe the chat. Maybe tonight we do this in the chat. Maybe this is the night we figure it out. But we need a term for our niche, the automotive niche, because a lot of us are doing something in between a how-to and a vlog. Because sometimes it's just really tough to, like, you just want to get the task at hand done. So you, like, at least I speak for myself, I get like lost in I just need to figure this thing out. I'm not going to show you my hour and a half struggle on 5 different things I'm trying to do to find drive in my transmission. But then the reverse of it is, if I'm just sitting there telling you about it without showing it, that's not good for you guys either. So I feel like our niche, we're always doing something kind of in between, and I feel like we need to coin our own phrase, what that is. Like, and I don't know what that term is, but, like, I don't know. Maybe tonight in the chat we'll figure out what that term is.
And the Sinister Camaro has made a great point. He says, "How is automotive not a big YouTube subcategory?" And I'm absolutely agree with that statement, because there's so many of us out there. There's so many different. I mean, especially if you're following other car guys, that's pretty well all that pops up in my YouTube feed is other car type related shows, and there's lots of that out there. But there's not a lot of us people, us guys, us gals out there who are into this sort of thing that are willing to go to YouTube to watch it. So I believe, in my opinion, that the automotive segment on YouTube is a very small segment because we don't follow that trendy, whatever it happens to be that's going on YouTube right now.
Well, I think that's where you've got to transcend and be more entertainment based. If you want to, when any automotive YouTuber cracks to the actual trending, like top 10 trending on the YouTube homepage, like I know Weston Champlin did it not all too long ago with the smokestang, that caught the world by storm. I think about, one of my people I idolize, that's not the right word, but look up to, there we go, Steve Darnell, Welder Up. Having gone on his shop tour, like, this guy's super down to earth. Like, he'll sit there and talk to you. He's personable, but he's entertaining. He's funny to watch. And so, like, my wife follows him on Instagram. After we did the tour, she just gets a kick out of the things he says. She doesn't give a rip about cars, but likes following Steve Darnell on Instagram. So I think that's where these other people that are constantly like PewDiePie and what are those other big ones, like, because they're generally people are looking for entertainment, and so if you're not into cars, how can you entertain people who aren't into cars? I guess is probably what I'd say there.
Well, and a lot of what makes a channel huge, again, this is just my opinion, is there's a lot of people out there looking at the shock value of entertainment. And, in the car side of YouTube, yes, there's your Weston Camplin and there's the Whistling Diesel and those type of guys who are just doing such big, crazy things on YouTube, and they're getting the views. And they seem to be killing it. But if you go outside the YouTube or the automotive niche on YouTube, and you got guys like How Ridiculous with several million subscribers, and they're just doing fun things, dropping bowling balls off of a dam and watch them bounce on the ground. And you've got Demolition Ranch just blowing things up. Like those guys are doing something different, and they're getting the shock value out of their viewers that just simply keep coming back to keep being entertained, and that wow factor. And you're never going to get that likely from me, unfortunately, just doing what I'm doing with the whole vlogging segment. But it's what I want to do. And if my channel is growing slowly to do just that, well, I'm going to continue to do it, because I feel like if my channel grows slow, which I'm okay with, but I'm getting real subscribers and real viewers, people who watch everything, like a lot of you guys who are on in the chat tonight, that means more to me than 1 million subscribers. In fact, in a conversation with somebody, and a fellow subscriber this week accused me of changing or doing something different than what I've always done. And I don't believe that I've ever changed. Is my channel growing? Yeah, it is. But do I think I'm the different person today than I was when I first started? Maybe a little bit, because I know more about the way YouTube works. But what I do and what I film has always been entertainment. It's always been a vlog style entertainment. It's never been a how-to. Do I have a lot of knowledge? Do I do a lot of things? Do I show a lot of things? Sure, I do. It's the way I do it. It's not necessarily a how to do it. If you want to follow me, do it at your own risk.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that circles around to the bigger point, and we've heard this on our interviews lately, more than once. Being yourself, right? The more genuine you are to who you actually are is going to be the more translatable. However, I will also say, though, like, you've got to be critical of yourself enough too, though, to be like, well, would I want to watch this? Because, like, and I say it all the time, in this setting with you and I, Jason, like, I smile way more. My voice inflections are more natural than just me and a tripod. I still struggle with just me and a tripod, right? I watch some of my stuff and like, yeah, you're kind of trailing off in your thought here, buddy. You should have like cut that out. You should have just like edited that out. You're kind of just repeating yourself, and you're saying more often. Like it's a tough business. Like you can be yourself, but also be critical of yourself and figure out how can I get better. It's not like you're being disingenuous, right? Like how can I be more entertaining yet still be myself?
So Morsky brings up a great point. He's saying, put a picture of me on your tripod. I mean, that should make you smile, I would think, or keep the mice away. I don't know, but nevertheless, yeah, being you, being who you are. I've reached out to different YouTube channels, and some of the people, some people who watch us know who I'm talking about, because I've reached out to them and said, listen, take a look at some of my videos and tell me what you think. And I've been told that I'm a little bit stiff and a little bit dry and this, but you know what? That's me. Unfortunately, I'm not going to change and be somebody who I'm not. I can try and loosen up a little bit, but unfortunately, that's what you get.
That makes me a little scared about what they say about me, because if you're stiff, then what? I mean, I'm double jointed, but still, man, I must be pretty rigid. Yeah, well, Jason, we'll start to wind things down. We'll transition into the, kind of sneak peek, little peek behind the curtains, what's coming up on the channels. So I'll let you start us off. What's coming up on Old Car Guy?
What's coming up on Old Car Guy? I got to think now. What did...
I know what Friday's episode's about, because it's been showing up on my reminder page. wheels.
Oh, yes. Good call. See, that's the thing. I've been doing my videos like a week or sometimes 2 weeks ahead of time. So it's like, okay, what did I do? So yes, it's a little bit of a DIY on taking original wheels and making them your own and customizing some original wheels. So Grandma is basically essentially getting some new wheels, and I'm going to show you how Hyundai actually helped me with that. And you guys will find out exactly what that means in tomorrow's upload. So make sure you tune into that. It will be premiering at 7:30 Eastern time. Grant, what about Straight SixFan? What's up and coming?
So while Tom Morsky's on his 700th running out of gas joke for you, Jason, over at Straight SixFan, we're experiencing the opposite problem on the Fairmont. As I had one more thing I was going to try on the transmission to see if I could circumvent something and figure something out. And after I tuned up the car last Saturday and I thought it was running great, well, the next day the car wouldn't start and the carburetor was puking gas out the vent tube. So we're getting too much fuel. Whereas, Jason and I are just checks and balances, carb guy with too much fuel, EFI guy with not enough fuel. We're just trying to cover all the bases for all you guys out there. We know what you're going through. So I'm guessing, well, I don't know if it'll work on Easter Sunday or not on the car, but that's probably the most likely the next thing coming out of Straight SixFan, at least for the car side of things. I might have some welding video. I don't know. Just stay tuned.
So I do want to point out, guys, I really appreciate the running out of gas jokes. I make light of it very much so because, it happened. And I wasn't afraid to put it in the video, knowing full well that Tom Morsky was going to nail me to the cross every time he had the opportunity about me running out of gas. But guess what? I left it in there. Again, it was part of the whole entertainment value of doing that video and, running out of gas. Oh, well, shit happens, I guess.
Yeah. So a couple of people are asking me about if I hit my carb with a hammer, which is, it's funny. It's like how I didn't even think of that on Sunday. It's like the one time just the solution is actually to hit it with a hammer. I didn't think of it, right? No, I did try that yesterday. No, it was one of the days this week over my lunch break, and it's not a hung up float, unfortunately. So I'm thinking either it's a needle gasket issue, because if the float was set right before, I don't feel like I need to dork around with resetting it. So it's either some gasket gone bad or the power valve, I'm guessing, on the Holy carb. I don't know. It's frustrating. That's what I do know about it. It's frustrating. So, but
yeah. So I think that's probably going to do it. And I think I'm going to scroll back in the chat here because there was a $5 super chat from Novataz.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure if you saw that. So just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you, Sean. That's $5 being entered into the draw for the Kilmat. And guys, you got a couple of minutes left if you want to get entered in. Every dollar spent in the super chat on Grant's channel gets you an entry into the Kilmat prize in an upcoming awards ceremony video on the 22nd of April. So,
which actually means, so there's only one other opportunity after tonight for you to enter into that. Yes, because Jason, there's only 3 episodes till the 22nd, and I only get one more.
Yeah, so just to touch on that a little bit, guys, next week you want to tune in because this is a joint effort. The show will be back on my channel next week, and we have a guest. It's Nick Panaritas from Nick's Garage. We'll be having a pretty exclusive interview with him. I'm really excited to have that happen. We're hoping to break that 97 people in the chat record, which Grant holds, I believe, on his channel. Was it 97 or 92?
We'll have to.
Anyways,
I didn't think
regardless,
we more than 84, but we
want to break that 100 people in the chat on the Car Guy and SixFan show. We're hoping that Nick's appearance will do that. The following week on Grant's channel, we have Ellie from Ellie's Garage. If you don't know who that is, you're going to want to look that up. She's a 16-year-old girl with a what is it, a 64?
3 or 4
Falcon. Anyways,
maybe
her and her dad are working on. It's pretty entertaining. You'll want to watch that. And then on the 22nd, the following week after that, was back on my channel, which is your last opportunity to enter in for the Forever Sharp steering wheel on my channel. So that's what you're going to want to do, is follow us along. The award ceremony is a fun show. We're going to be giving away some prizes, not just the steering wheel, not just the kill mat. We got a few extras being thrown in there as well. So be sure to be a part of that.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you said that too, Jason, because you know, with my What We Weld In Weekly series, if you guys didn't catch the last one, I won grand champion of the welding competition that Steve Darnell put on with the class I've bought of his. And so I won a lot of cool welding gear, but there's a lot of like double of things that either I already have or they sent 3 of certain things. So the runner up in my giveaway, I will be given a runner up prize on my show as well.
Yeah, and of course, you guys know that Phytech was a big sponsor for one of my videos this year. So there'll be a Phytech hat. Also, I've got an upcoming sponsorship video in play, and there'll be a hat involved in that as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned to us, the Car Guy and SixFan Show, because we've got lots of things happening over the next few weeks. We also had a few extra dollars in there from Luke. Yep.
In Half-Ass Garage. So thank you guys both. I've got you written down, so we'll entering you into the giveaway. So, and then Roy Marco earlier had asked, he said he may have missed it, but what carb do I have? I have a Holly 2-barrel, Holly 350 CFM 2-barrel. So
2150, isn't it?
That's what I replaced.
Yeah. Right.
Of the Motorcraft, which ironically had the same issue. So gas through the vent tube, and I gave up and went to the Holly. Thought I had everything fixed, and a couple months later, here we are. But I hear, you know, so the problem is when I bought it, it sat dry for a couple after the rebuild. You know, they say they don't; those Holly, the power valve gaskets don't like to sit dry. They like having fuel, being submerged in fuel all the time. I don't know if that's it, but again, it ran great on Saturday and then Sunday. I don't know.
I did want to make a point to mention that in Luke's super chat, he mentioned, just don't leave me any breakup voicemails. So Luke unfortunately fell for the April Fool's prank. I did have to break it to him that it was just a prank. Sorry, Luke. But that's what April Fool's is all about. Anyway, Half-Fast Garage left a $5 super chat in there as well. And I think I just saw $10 also come in there from mechanics for Holly parts. So thank you guys for the super chats. And Grant's going to get you guys entered in for that draw.
Yep. And so again, a reminder, it's a joint collaboration. If you're not subscribed to both Jason's channel and mine, you will miss every other episode. So subscribe to Old Car Guy. And Jason, I will let you take us on home so I can cut you off.
Yeah, which he always does. So I'm going to speak quick, guys. Thank you for tuning in on this Thursday evening. It was a little bit of a cluster type of a video, but nevertheless, we pulled it off. We got every point across that we were trying to make this week. Thank you for understanding the April Fool's joke. It is over with. There's no more jokes, but nevertheless, we are going to move on. And I appreciate you guys and all the comments on that video. Guys, stay focused on the windshield, not the rearview mirror. We'll see you next week on my channel.